No.
A real drag wife.
A real drag wife.
I just need to find a real husband in Miami.
Well, I mean, now that
Did
Palm
you
Beach...
say a real wife? What did you say?
At this point, I'll take anything.
You know, Palm Beach went blue. You could go up there and find a rich husband.
Right.
Funny. Has anybody thought this has been the longest week of their lives?
This is the most 2020 week of 2020.
Next week has been
2020
so
was 35
exhausting.
years long.
We've had in the same week, we've had this election and the highest number of cases and hospitalizations in 2020. The same week.
Listen, if we make it out of 2020 alive, we could survive anything.
Yeah.
True.
Doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, November 5th, 2020, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up our news. The vote is in, but we are going to shock you on how many LGBTQ voted for Trump and how many didn't vote for a president at all.
In the Big Finish, we take a look at Oregon's ballot initiative that legalized all drugs, and also we consider The Daily Show's Trevor Noah suggesting Florida should be blasted off the map. We kind of agree.
Tonight, we look at my drag sisters, Bianca Del Rio and Lady Bunny, as they launch their own news show, and I'm just going to call them Hags. Hags, I say.
So, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, November 5, and it is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell tonight on Queer News Tonight. The world's first live daily queer evening news show. Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. We are live and unedited. This is a live LGBTQ news, evening news show. So anything can happen this evening. We are going to bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and welcome guest anchor, David Hopkins. He is the creative inspiration at It's Happening Out, well known here in LGBTQ South Florida as an officer for Lambda Men's Brotherhood charity. He will direct the Leather Mass Ball 15 at the Eagle Wilton Manors on November 27th. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
And next up, of course, is Athena Dion. She is one of South Florida's brightest and most beloved drag performance entertainers. She is CEO of the premier drag entertainment company in South Florida called Dream Queens. She is Miami's very own Greek goddess and has dual hosting roles at the famous R House Wynwood here in South Florida and summers headlining at the famous Jackie O Resort in Mykonos, Greece. Good evening, Athena.
Good evening, everyone.
Well, tonight, let's begin with queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is certainly diverse, while the LGBTQ community around the world is vast, and we're going to bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Thursday, November 5th, 2020. We begin by queering up Vote 2020. LGBTQ America is fearing 2020. It is looking more like 2000. The ultimate vote by the decision may be made by a judge. Watch this.
So no, I'm not troubled at all by the president suggesting that, because the other side's already doing it too. And you can anticipate in close elections, both sides will be lawyered up and we'll end up in court. It's happened over and over and over again. Nothing unusual. Having close disputed elections is not unusual. It happens all the time. So I don't think the president should be criticized for suggesting he may have some lawyers, because the other guys are certainly already doing that. And in a close election, you could anticipate in some of these states you're going to end up in court. It's the American way.
Mitch McConnell. As Donald Trump tried to claim victory before votes were tallied in critical battleground states, the Biden campaign was privately telling supporters not to panic, even as it prepared for pitched legal battles with the president. In a Zoom meeting call with donors on Wednesday, the aides told the group that Joe Biden was on pace to reach the 270 electoral votes and in short order, beaming over victories in the Midwestern states that Donald Trump flipped 4 years ago. At the same time, President Donald Trump was making specious claims of victory, cranking up unfounded grievances about stolen votes and filing lawsuits to challenge vote counts. Trump tweeted today to stop the vote. A very strange request for all of the states he won in 2016. Biden advisors moved to reassure anxious supporters as Trump declared himself the winner in those states, such as Pennsylvania, where hundreds of thousands of votes have yet to even be counted. Biden's team activated teams of attorneys in Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan today in preparation for the court battles and blasted out requests for donations to combat myriad legal challenges. Biden sits on the edge of hitting 270 electoral votes.
Yeah, Biden is, telling people to stand by and be patient and figure this out. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign sent an email saying Democrats are trying to steal the vote and to get out and fight them and try and stop it. He's calling for civil unrest and violence, and it's not presidential and it's not American.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about a Biden win. I'm still trying to be a little cautious about it as well. But can we just say how nice it is whenever Biden is addressing us, during this election? We are all anxious right now, anxious more than ever. And just his tone is so presidential. And to think that that is what we're going to have for the next 4 years, 8 years, that is just so refreshing. And I really hope everything goes in our favor.
We all three of us were talking about this right before we went on the air, that we feel a little better today here on Thursday. You can feel that presidential voice coming back to America. So I completely agree with you, Athena. The other thing that is interesting to me, as the president continues to yell, "Stop the vote, stop the vote," it's interesting to me, we've got to educate ourselves. We have got to stop being as stupid as we are. If we followed his advice to stop the vote, that would mean that, according to Fox News, right now, the Electoral College is 264 to 214. Let's stop the vote, and he wins the election. That's what that means. Or in a dispute, it would go to the House of Representatives, and Speaker Pelosi would be leading the decision maker and decision making of who would be the president, which would be Joe Biden. Don't stop the vote, you fool.
Stop the vote.
Right.
Next week, we're at Vote 2020. LGBTQ voter turnout was at an all-time high this election, and support for Trump skyrocketed. While we may not admit it, there may be an LGBTQ failure in this election. Like everything about the news from Tuesday, it seems to be 50-50. So, too, for LGBTQ, there is good news and bad news. First, the good news. LGBTQ turnout was huge. According to a significant size survey of post-voters by Edison Research, LGBTQ made up 5% of voters in 2016. That number grew to 6% in 2018 midterms, but Tuesday results showed a historic turnout of 7% of all voters. Now, the other news. In 2016, Clinton received 77% of the LGBTQ vote. Tuesday, the LGBTQ vote for Biden had dropped to a shocking 61%. Hold your seat. Trump received just 17% of the LGBTQ vote in 2016, but Tuesday, that had increased an astounding 70% to 28%. Queer News Tonight wonders if Trump prides and #walkaway actually worked. At first glance, the numbers seem to support that. Perhaps most shocking, up to 11% of LGBTQ voters that voted did not cast a vote for a presidential candidate at all, but did for other candidates and issues. Just wow.
Yeah, I say a big wow to this as well.
Wow.
I never expected the numbers to go up like that. But, hey, it's a free country and everyone is entitled to vote for who they want to, and we're entitled to feel a certain way about those people too. So God bless America.
It's interesting to me. This was a very large survey that was involved in it. The statistics are pretty good. We're going to hear much, much more in coming days and weeks about the LGBT vote. But for the first time in my entire life, November of 2020, the LGBT community cannot be considered totally blue. #walkaway, Brandon Strzok, Richard Grinnell, Tiffany Trump and Trump Prides, etc. there's a significant percentage of our community that do not support our traditional ideas and values in the LGBTQ community. We are going to have to accept that now. We've learned that in November of 2020.
Yeah, and there is a very angry group of Trump supporters that have been wandering Wilton Drive, which I live right off of, the past few nights, screaming obscenities and slurs against gay people and people of color, including the past couple nights, a truckload of them shooting people with paint guns as they're driving down. I'm afraid it's just going to escalate to real guns before this is over.
Well, speaking of obscenities and slurs, let's queer up entertainment with this next story. Bianca Del Rio and Lady Bunny launch HHN, Hateful Hags Network. Watch this.
Tonight, we're going to talk a lot of shit about a lot of queens.
I support getting rid of guns. Let's start with Gia Gun.
I really wish Alexis would have continued to impersonate Walter Mercado once she was off the show. By dying. Usually, the queens are flooded with work after the season airs. But sadly, they're all sitting at home watching their fame fade away. And Derek Barry is also in the cast. You know, the Britney clone. I think she started taking this impression too far when she managed to get bipolar disorder. Kidding! Derek doesn't have one personality, much less two!
They are so ruthless. Well, listen, if you have nothing nice to say, sit down and learn from the masters. Twisted Sisters Bianca Del Rio and Lady Bunny have been the go-to hostesses with the mostesses this year. They kicked off 2020 by hosting a New Year's Eve show together in London. Once COVID-19 halted live productions, they took the party inside, hosting Work the World live streams from their respective homes in New York City and LA. Now the dragnificent duo have reunited for a new digital show, HHN, Hateful Hags Network, bringing you the latest news from the drag world while they read the Queens for Filth, of course. Everyone at Queer News Tonight welcomes you to the LGBTQ news business. We can't wait for your premiere on November 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
You know, it's going to be fun to watch. The production quality there was a little questionable, but it's going to be fun. And I can't wait for Bianca and Bunny to learn how frickin' hard this actually is. And they get to do fake news. So we're going to be MSNBC and they're going to be Fox and Friends. And we're going to start this running gag of that story. Good luck. I know it's going to be absolutely spectacular.
That gave me so many flashbacks to the first episode of It's Happening Out over 2 years ago. Terrible sound, blurry cameras, and bad special effects. I think Lady Bunny's been doing the same shtick since, she was powdering wigs for the Founding Fathers. But I love her, so it'll be good to see the show.
Exactly. And Athena, we're gonna be asking you lots of questions.
Oh my God! Well, I think the production is right on brand. Let me put it that way. I think it's gonna be great. Look, good luck, ladies. This is the kind of news we need in 2020. Something to lift our spirits up.
Is.
You know, when you just like that mindless television, you want to sit there and not really have to think about.
Yeah.
Thank you for this, ladies.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Like Laugh-In in the 70s.
Yes.
And
Lady Bunny was too old for that.
Originally.
right, exactly. All right, let's continue by queering up gay culture. Let's do a sex story. Steve Kornacki is your gay MVP, breaking down the Electoral College map. Watch this.
Joe Biden is sitting right now at 253 electoral votes. Donald Trump at 214. Of course, the target here, 270. Biden is 17 away from that goal right now, and he's leading in some states that could get him there. So right now he is leading in the vote count. I can show you in Arizona. Now we've got probably about 2 hours from now, we expect to get a big batch of votes in Arizona that's going to help us understand that picture there a little bit more. But Biden leading in Arizona, trying to hold off the president. Donald Trump, in the last update we got from Arizona, got closer. Let's see if Trump can close that gap further. There is Nevada It's close. Biden's leading. We're expecting to get a lot of votes reported out tomorrow, probably.
Well, the votes are still being counted in this year's presidential election, and the winner might not be known for quite some time. But the undisputed MVP of this spectacle so far has been MSNBC's election analyst and geeky heartthrob LGBTQ, Steve Kornacki. His mind is a living Rolodex of numbers and facts and historical precedents, and he's been the star of MSNBC's election coverage, with his expert management of the constantly updated touchscreen electoral map. Kornacki has a kind of nerdy, all-American on-air persona with a button-down shirt and tie, sleeves pushed up as the night wears on, and the glasses that make him look even more intelligent and adorable. And let's not forget just how great this human calculator looks in those khakis when he turns his back to the camera. Perhaps that's why, in the infinite editorial wisdom of MSNBC, instituted a Kornacki cam, which follows the analyst as he examines his data and tests scenarios on his map during commercial breaks. And you get to watch it. The 41-year-old Kornacki came out in 2011. He is an avid sports fan, and his social media is filled with personal visits to various sporting events, and we congratulate him for what an outstanding job he has done for the LGBTQ community and all of America in this election season.
Next, we queer up the USA. Nevada voters turned same-sex marriage ban into legal protections for gay couples. Nevada voters removed the state's constitutional amendment that bans same-sex marriages to require the state to recognize and perform them. The ban was moot following the Supreme Court ruling in Obergefell versus Hodges that brought marriage equality to the nation. More importantly, it's believed the Supreme Court could send marriage equality back to the states, and this move would ensure marriage equality in Nevada. The results are so overwhelmingly tilted in favor of LGBT equality, the question can be answered with the vote already counted. 61.5% of voters chose to repeal the amendment. 38.5% voted to keep it. 30 other state constitutions also include bans on marriage equality that have not been repealed, so stay tuned.
All right, let's queer up the world. Activists hail steps to make violence against LGBT people hate crime in Italy. Activists in Italy have hailed a vote in the lower house of parliament to pass a bill that would make violence against LGBT people and disabled people, as well as misogyny, a hate crime. The bill, which passed successfully despite months of protests from far-right and Catholic groups, now needs approval from the upper house, where it is backed by the ruling coalition parties, before becoming law. Alessandro Zan, Democratic Party politician who drafted the law, said if we succeed in definitively approving this law, Italy will finally be a country that accepts LGBT rights, because right now we are among the last countries in Europe for the social acceptance of LGBT people. Zan expects the law, which would see people convicted of such crimes jailed for up to 4 years, to be enforced before next spring.
Well, that's our headlines for today. Next, let's catch up on all of the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment we call Quarantine Quickies. There's a lot to discuss in the pandemic, so let's get it underway. In Quarantine Quickies, the election has LGBTQ's attention, but yesterday the U.S. reached a record high for COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Watch this.
For the first time on Wednesday, the U.S. reporting more than 100,000 new COVID-19 cases in a single day. That's up from nearly 87,000 cases on Tuesday. Johns Hopkins University reporting a 45% increase in national coronavirus cases in the past 2 weeks. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying another COVID-19 relief bill is needed before 2021.
The Senate goes back in session next Monday. Hopefully the partisan passions that prevented us from doing another rescue package will subside with the election. And I think we need to do it, and I think we need to do it before the end of the year.
Officials in Florida reporting another 4,400 cases on Wednesday, bringing the state's total to more than 820,000 coronavirus cases since March. According to the Florida Department of Health, the state's COVID-19 positivity rate on Tuesday was about 7.6%. With another 32 deaths reported, the state's total now sits at more than 17,000 fatalities.
Well, LGBTQ America may be dedicating all of our attention to the election, but COVID-19 is not only still here, it is growing dramatically. What may have seemed like a ridiculously high prediction weeks ago has turned into reality, and much faster than health experts expected. Yesterday, as you heard, there were 102,831 new infections, according to Johns Hopkins University. This is the highest single day of new infections in all of 2020. Trump's testing argument can't explain away because testing increased by 4.52%, while new cases increased 21% over the last week. As hospitalizations and deaths surge, 16 states have set new records of all-time highs in hospitalizations and deaths. We constantly remind you, wear a mask. Well, that's our COVID-19 reporting and quarantine quickies. We remind you Happening Out Television Network is broadcasting on our permanent set in partnership with the Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We always joke the gayest place on planet Earth. Our support of their Sunday celebration is the largest religious broadcast in the world, every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's live. We encourage you to tune in because Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Wow.
Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, Minister of Connections. Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible. Well, now we're going to end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish. Oregon votes, and they did it on Tuesday by decriminalizing all drugs, including meth, cocaine, and magic mushrooms.
I take a couple uppers, I down a couple downers, but nothing compares to these blue and yellow purple pills. I don't know how.
You took some before the show again, didn't you?
You know, magic mushrooms can be used to treat depression. I just tend to be really depressed. Maybe I need some.
Athena, what do you think about legalized cocaine?
No comment.
No comment.
Is that stereotyping her?
Right,
queen.
Right, but it's going to be challenged by the federal courts. But I think it's hilarious that the majority of a state's population says we want to move our entire state to the city of Amsterdam, Holland, because this is exactly what Amsterdam did. I love it. I love visiting Amsterdam.
It works for them, you know.
Exactly.
It's a lovely place. That's
They're
a lovely place.
very happy.
Yeah.
It's cold there, and they are still very happy.
In addition to Oregon, on Tuesday, our District of Columbia, our national capital, also legalized magic mushrooms. So,
Did they?
Did they really?
yes.
Wow.
Maybe things will actually start happening in
But
Washington.
meth and cocaine? Wow. It's
Adderall's already legal.
Okay.
You notice Trump sniffs a lot, so.
Yeah, all right. In the big finish, Trump is finally getting his impenetrable wall, but it's around his house.
You know, I love that he's built 6 different fences and walls around the White House at this point. Bunker Baby just needs to go away.
Bunker Baby.
What was this for? Do we know why he did that?
It was to keep people out. Seriously.
Literally.
Production, can we look at this picture again? Athena asked me, is this photoshopped? It is not.
This
is the
look at
real
it.
picture.
There's a chain, there's a barricade, there's a black fence, and then there's a white wall. I thought the white wall was photoshopped because this is hysterical.
Yeah. You can't even get to the pedestrian side of the street on that anymore.
What is he scared of?
And one more time, if we could keep that up. Also, you can't see it, but there's a 4th line of defense after the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fences right at the top, under that flag, is John Philip Sousa's 1812 cannons. They're sitting right there. The big finish. Daily Show Trevor Noah wonders, he said this Tuesday night, if Florida could be blasted off the map.
You know, it's funny. There's only like a handful of places that voted blue in Florida, and of course, it's all the areas that have universities. It's almost like being educated makes you liberal.
Well, I saw a map that said, I'm going to visit Florida for the first time. Where should I go? And it showed, go to the blue sections. You don't want to bother with anything else.
There's the blue sections, and then there's the parts where a meth head may throw an alligator at you.
You know, this was on Twitter. This is the official site for The Daily Show. This made the major news for 2 days, for the last 2 days, on what network? Fox News. This is the big news on Fox News.
What else are they going to report
about
on?
Destroying Florida. Well, can I ask, does this technology exist?
And that is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Queer News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell for updates, and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines, and this is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world.
I'm so allergic to Trump's bullshit.
Your community needs your support.
You are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
We are here with you, and this is Queer News Tonight.
So thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of my cohorts here, David Hopkins and Athena Dion, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night, America.
Good night.